The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Are you ready for some more football? Woo! Woo!
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And download every episode and more at basicallyasportshow.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg,
Mike.
And this is Andy, and you're listening to Basically a Sports Show. I'll begin our live stream.
Oh, we're doing a live show?
Yeah, baby.
Oh, shit. Are we taking calls?
We cannot take calls.
Oh, but hey, did we tell anybody we're being live? Boy, I have my English skills have shown up.
I posted on Twitter and Facebook and on the board. It's a cool little thing. It's called Mixler, and it's very simple. It's got a little chat. The pain of it is, though, you can only do an hour at a time.
So are we started?
Well, I can go ahead and let me punch it real quick. Here we go. Boom. Okay, connecting. Oh, we got a base show.
No, it's on.
Let's go. All right, continue. All right, we have 59 minutes and 49 seconds left to enjoy our live stream.
Talk fast, guys.
We've called this summit here today to discuss.
Let me explain how this all started, Zach. So Andy put this post up in the NFL turning footballs into gold thread, which does anybody know what the fuck that means?
No idea.
It's supposed to be the regular season thread, but somebody thought, I'm going to be Admiral.
Right, okay.
Not everyone can be Admiral.
So anyway, so I saw his post and I thought, man, I agree with that. And then I saw that Mike liked his post too, and I thought, well, this is a great opportunity to gang up on Zach and tell him how much the NFL sucks.
Gang up on me?
I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'm on your side.
But yeah, so that's anyway. And I said, hey, we should get together and talk about this. And then, here we are.
I just want to start this kind of with one basic question. Zach, are you ready for football, NFL football?
Moderately. Like, the problem is the NFL, does the NFL ever really leave?
No.
Well, hold on. Let's go around the table here. Mike, are you excited for NFL football?
Honestly, not really.
If somebody be excited for football. Greg, are you excited at all for football? Jesus.
Yes and no. I'm excited to watch the games. I'm excited to talk about the games when Zach and I do basically a football show, cheap plug. What I'm not excited about is it's bad enough when the NFL's not in season and it's getting crammed down our throats. The only thing worse is when it's actually in season and it's really crammed down our throats. I'm not looking forward to all the outside stuff that's going to be happening with it, where we're going to be hearing about it more than we do now, if that's even possible. So that's where I'm at.
Here, to rephrase my answer, Andy.
Yeah.
When the calendar turns and it is week 1 of the NFL season, and it's Thursday night, and the Patriots are opening up against the Steelers without Tom Brady on their sideline, you know damn well I'm going to be sitting there, I'm going to be excited, I'm going to get up early and watch the Colts game that Sunday, and I will be excited for football when football is played.
Okay.
How about you?
I don't give a shit. And
the Bears, though.
We don't need to go down this road. I mean, okay.
Jay Cutler's prepping up for a good year. I can feel it.
Even now. Well, here's the thing. I'm used to the Bears being awful, so I fully anticipate them to. They literally, I think statistically can't be worse than they were last year. The last 2 years, it's been.
The coach cried last year, so you know
that was the whole other ball of wax, and it was a very low period of time. But now it's like they've got a legitimate staff and hopefully a legitimate GM, but it's going to take like 3 or 4 years to.
And they've got a legitimate coach too.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm happy that things are in that direction, but still, it's like this is a transitional time period where it's going to take a while. But that's not why I'm not excited for football. I used to get excited for football, the NFL season, all the time. It's one of those things I think that everybody goes through, where they just become like disenchanted.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I'm going through now, honestly.
It's painful, and it's not painful. It's just kind of sad.
It is. I noticed. And I thought about this today.
Mm-hmm.
I actually asked, what am I looking forward to football? And I realized that there was a point in time when I was, say, when I was in high school and for a good part of my university career, where I was genuinely excited each day like each Sunday to get up, watch the pregame shows, watch the games. And I was interested in football, and I was really into NFL football. And I thought back to the last few years, and I realized that I'm not excited to watch the games. I'm more so excited to watch the games because I remember this used to excite me, and I can't bring myself to stop the ritual.
That's sounds a lot like how I feel about it. Like if it wasn't for the football show that we do, that's the thing. I enjoy talking about it, but in order to talk about it and be reasonably intelligent to talk about it, you have to watch it.
It's kind of like I'm watching NFL Countdown, right? And it's like, oh, Chris Berman, you asshole. Like, I remember when I used to really enjoy watching your show, and I still watch your show now, even though I don't enjoy it, because watching it now gives me memories of when I did like it, and I like those memories.
And, I mean, Greg and I have talked about this a couple times on the football show, that I know for myself, I've started to enjoy college football a hell of a lot more
definitely
than the
War
pro
Eagle.
game. Than almost, I mean, I would go as far to say that college football is my second favorite sport behind hockey right now. And it's just, college football's fun. It's fun. You don't have to take things so damn seriously. And the NFL just takes itself so damn seriously.
Week 7 game between the Cleveland Browns and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Right. And
all
college
the
has its own issues, of course, but
Sure.
I still enjoy it. I still get a bigger kick out of it than I do the NFL on a week-to-week basis.
This is something that Andy brought up in that post I was talking about, where you said that the NFL has to make everything this huge, larger-than-life event. And I don't see that happening in college football. Sure, certain games are made into huge, larger-than-life events.
The game of the century.
But
season.
Ohio State versus Toledo in week 4 is just a game that might be on a channel somewhere. That's all it is. It's you know what I mean?
Well, you know why, though? Is because there's so goddamn many of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The market for colleges, if they could, they absolutely would. The NFL is not doing anything that I don't think if anyone else was in control of the league, they would do the same thing. It's at the peak of its popularity. It needs that market exposure. It needs to be put out there constantly, just constantly, it's ground into people's heads. But the problem is they've killed it. It's not only the oversaturation. That is a problem in and of itself. You can fix that pretty quickly if you wanted to. You'd lose a lot of money doing it, but it could be done. The problem is that football can't be honest with itself. And it can't just be. For decades, the NFL was just sort of acknowledged as a violent as hell game that was played by guys who routinely get hurt, and it's just going to be the way it is. And sometimes there were years, it was kind of like baseball, where you'll have periods of time where it's like the pass is the big thing, but there was decades where it was just the running game. That was all anyone did, was the run game, before the passing game was even a thing. But now they're starting to fuck with the rules, and they're starting to change too much to the point where, like, we have like these stupid, it's going to happen at least 3 or 4 times this year, this stupid make a football move kind of rule where it's like,
oh, I hate that. Like, hasn't it been turned into a move common to the game is the terminology they're using now?
Because, I mean, if somebody goes out there and like, hey, it's a soccer move, that doesn't count. Like, what are they going to do about it? Hey, that was a hockey move. He gave him an elbow.
Yeah, hockey is the other sport that does that too. It's a hockey move. What the fuck is a hockey move? Does any move while you're playing hockey qualify? Because I don't know.
But I just don't see why they couldn't just leave it alone. And I mean, I understand there's all sorts of ways. They want to make the game more exciting by helping quarterbacks and hurting defensive backs. I understand that. And there's obviously a problem with headhunting and concussions. It's very scary. And they're seeing this as all these old timers put guns in their mouths or whatever it is that else they do. It's kind of terrifying. But
I think you said it best, Andy. We just need to, it needs to be square. You basically said it needs to be square. Like, the NFL just needs to come out and say, look, this is a dangerous sport. People are going to get fucked up playing it. Here it is.
You're fundamentally changing the game by trying to make it safe, because it's like boxing. if you like put them in a plastic bubble and it's like, all right, gentlemen, this fight will be, you will each be in a plastic sphere. Good luck. It's just like, well, no, that doesn't work because, or more appropriately, I guess, if you took their arms away and you said, okay, gonna headbutt one another. Armless boxers, finally the crippled veterans will have a new sport they can dominate with the armless boxing. Well, it's like, well, we've done some research and we've discovered that fists and arms covered in muscle will, when hitting an opponent's head, will give them a concussion or worse. It's like, well, in that case, just saw their arms off or whatever, and that way we can fix it. Well, then you killed boxing because that's what it is.
I want to go back to something you brought up a second ago about the changes to make the quarterbacks, make the game more exciting and all that. Is it really more exciting now? Because if the two teams are fairly evenly matched, you're pretty much guaranteed that whoever has the ball last is probably going to win.
Probably.
And I don't know that, to me, it almost seems kind of, I don't want to say scripted because that's really kind of overstating it, but it's kind of the same every time. Like, okay, if, I don't know, like if the Packers and the Cowboys play, if Romo gets the ball last, then they're going to drive down and it just, to me, that's not excitement. That's just the same old shit every week. It's just every game, a 34-31 game can be incredibly exciting, but at other times it's just like because you just kept scoring on each other and it's just typical.
To be fair, if the Cowboys are involved, Tony Romo's probably going to throw an interception on that last possession.
Well, see, we can't say that anymore after last year.
Well, he still did it though.
He still
did it.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Did I miss the interception to end the season last year?
Well, it ended a game. He ended some games. He didn't end the season.
Well, yeah, but you know what I'm saying, though. Okay, bad example, but I just don't find it exciting to know that if you've got the ball and a minute or more left in the game with maybe a timeout, you're going to probably get a chance to score.
It doesn't always ring true, though. Watching the Bears last year, part of their offense, a staple of their offense, it was so pathetic, was that they would call a deep ball, and it wasn't even a good route. It'd just be like, just run, I will throw it, get yourself tangled up in defensive backs and try to draw a penalty.
Right.
And half the time it worked.
That's what I'm saying, though. That's another aspect that's just kind of predictable about the whole thing.
It's a farce.
It used to, the saying used to be that you could call holding on every play. You could call pass interference on every play, realistically. Absolutely. But it seems so arbitrary, and it absolutely sucks all of the excitement out of the game when you see this amazing, play, and all of a sudden people start looking for flags.
Right. It's like kick returns always have been. The first thing the announcers say after a kick return for a punt return for a touchdown, no flags, or are there any flags? Now it's just on a long pass, it's the first thing you look for. Is there an interference flag if the ball wasn't caught? Sometimes if it was, even, for that matter.
For special teams, it makes a lot of sense, though, because special teams are always the most inexperienced players.
Right.
And there's so much chaos on those returns that you kind of expect there to be a mistake and somebody to mess with a block because there's so much speed. Whereas with pass interference, the entire premise for a defensive back is to, unless you're playing like deep four or whatever, you're going to initially off the ball just try and clock the receiver. You want to really hit him. Yeah. And to do that, you need your arms. And when you can't basically touch them, what are you supposed to do? And these receivers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger while defensive backs are always traditionally pretty small. So it's a statistical certainty that you can throw the ball up and probably a solid 50-60% of the time you're going to draw that pass interference. And the thing is too, they also gave that pass interference guaranteed 15 yards in first down. Or 15 yards from spot of the foul?
No, no. Now it's the spot of the foul. Like
in college, it's 15 yards.
15 yards, which I think it should be that in the NFL too, because it would take away a lot of this chuck it and hope for the best stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But like a team, what I wanted to bring up was like with the defense, the 85 Bears or the 2000 Ravens. A couple of just incredible defenses. But like the 85 Bears couldn't exist today.
No,
they just couldn't, and they were. The most fun thing about watching that 85 Bears team was that defense because it was just so freaking phenomenal that you didn't care that if they won a game 13-0, you didn't give a shit because you enjoyed watching them just punish the other team. You can't. That'll never happen again.
That's another point. The league is protecting quarterbacks at the expense of defenses, on the premise of making the game more exciting, but. Is it really exciting to see two quarterbacks run up the score against inept defenses and just see which team can score the most? Or
right. Well,
to me, a good football game is one where there's almost an even matchup between offense and defense for, in both teams' favor, where each time, an all-star quarterback goes out, he has to earn his big plays. He has to earn the scores. But like, that to me is exciting, not watching what is essentially a live action version of a Madden game on easy mode.
Well, remember that playoff game with the Packers and the Cardinals a few years back where the final score was, everybody's like, that was the greatest game ever. It was like, that game was shit. It sucked.
It had an awesome ending, but it ended on a defensive play. It wasn't even an offensive play that ended that game.
Well, okay, so the thing is though, like that is just going to happen. That's just football sometimes. Like in terms of just like, again, like if they hadn't messed with the rules, there would have been a phase where like now we're in an era where we just left the era of like the Tampa 2 for 5 or 6 years. I'm venturing to guess that the Tampa 2 is a really big time offense used all around the league. It's been transitioning for a few years now into the 3-4 kind of hybrid.
Right.
Defense.
Yeah.
And it's going to cycle around eventually. I don't know if it's just the players coming out of college are more suited for certain schemes, or it's just the thing where one defense seems to be, it's like, well, we found that the way that they're doing offense is now the 3-4 is the most effective, this or that. It's just, I wish they would just let it alone and just let it happen.
Well, like the natural progression right now would be as everybody's going to the spread and everybody's throwing the ball, the defenses are going to end up putting in more nickel packages and dime packages and whatever.
Right.
And then to take advantage of that disadvantage, teams would then start running the ball in response, you would think. And then the running teams would be better, and then eventually the defense had to form to the run. It would be that back and forth ebb and flow. But the NFL is trying to form the game itself rather than letting the game just evolve as it naturally would.
And the other thing that bothers me a lot about today's NFL, and this is maybe just me being a stick in the mud, but I just remember how awesome it was. Like every team growing up for me had one running back that was like the running back. They were important. They were legends. Like those guys were, it was so crucial. No position has been more devalued than the running back. I
remember
everybody uses 3 guys every time.
I remember back in the, what I guess would be back in the day for me, but, Terrell Davis, like the guy in Denver. And for the longest time, Terrell Davis had those few huge seasons of Denver, and suddenly for a long time, the league became very run oriented. Everyone had to get, their big running back, who was going to be the star. You had work done in Tampa. And then, later on, the Daniel Tomlinson, in San Diego. But
Emmitt Smith guy.
Smith, Edgerrin James.
Edgerrin James, Marshall Falk.
Jamal Lewis with the Ravens. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But, and now, can anyone name
Curtis Martin? Well, go ahead, Mike.
But my point is, like today, could anyone name 5 standout, noteworthy running backs?
Yeah.
Peterson.
Marshawn Lynch comes to mind.
Marshawn Lynch, yeah.
Adrian Peterson, Marshawn Lynch, and then though, but like,
and then
a pretty big drop off. There's a real drop off after that, yeah.
Oh, I mean,
you got 2
you hype guys up, like Jamal Charles might be up there, although he's started to slip. Matt Forte has always been pretty solid for your Bears.
An awful team. Yeah. What about that Matt Forte? I would say I was watching him last year. He looked like Walter Payton running around the field there. But I mean, there's running back names are out there, but I mean, they're getting old, and
they're getting old, and they're getting old, and there's not a new crop of guys ready to replace them. Like,
nobody's even drafting running backs in the first round anymore.
No, I mean, well, you saw what happened with Trent Richardson. He was he was the last one I remember being drafted in the first round.
I saw. What about I saw.
Oh, damn. Well, they had a running back taken in the first round this year. The guy from the Rams. One player.
Yeah, one guy.
Well, he was, Gurley? Todd Gurley?
Todd Gurley, yeah. And he's not going to be like an impact running back.
No.
He'll be serviceable.
Hey,
he's not going to be a breakaway guy.
Well, was he taken in the top 10 picks? Do you remember?
I think he was like 11.
12?
Okay. But, I mean, it used to be like what Mike's talking about, and going back even further, like in my day, that a guy it wouldn't be a surprise at all to see 5 or 6 running backs make up the first 15 picks in the draft. You'll never see that again. At least not the way it stands right now.
And Greg, you'll remember another position that has gone the way of the frickin' dinosaur is the fullback.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it's, well, you know who uses them now, and it really irritates me? The Green Bay Packers. Damn them.
Oh,
Damn
what? You don't like John Kuhn?
You know what? It like irritates me. You know what sucks about John Kuhn's, or is it Kuhn?
Yeah.
Is that he's white, and that I feel like the entire Packers fan base glorifies him because he's this big, no-necked, just cement-headed, white.
He looks like a Wisconsin meathead.
He's the modern Mike Allstott.
He is just a Polish last name away from being like a god in Green Bay.
I mean,
Brokowski or something,
right?
Put him on a sausage.
But there
were 2 running backs selected in the first round, by the way, just to correct our facts.
Go ahead, Mike.
But really though, has there been a fullback that has made as much of an impact as Mike Allstott? Like Mike Allstott, I think was the last one.
Mike Allstott was a beast.
But
the guy for the Chargers, Tolbert. He was always blocking for Tomlinson.
Yeah, but he was blocking though. That's
right.
the thing.
It used to be like Andy brought up back, like when the Browns were good in the '80s. They had 2 running backs that were both rushed for 1,000 yards in the same season. Ernest Miner and Kevin Mack. One was the tailback, one was the fullback. And this was a team that passed a lot with Bernie Kosar and had a good receiving core. But the fullback as a running back and even as a receiver to an extent has kind of just disappeared from the game, which is, you know what I mean? It's just a shame, really.
Exactly. Tolbert did fantastic work blocking for LT in San Diego. But the thing is, though, that he was rarely used as a runner.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're getting at is that the running back, the fullback as a runner or even as a short passing target, you just don't see it anymore because, and I have a theory why this is. It might be a bit conspiratorial. I don't know.
You have my attention.
Okay. Look at what the NFL is out of all the major North American sports leagues, the most corporate. This is everything they've done has been towards standardization. Standardized Super Bowl logos, standardized, uniform rules. Now they've completely outlawed. You're not allowed to wear different color throwback helmets are no longer a thing.
Nice job aiming toward our listener base there.
Exactly. But my point is that
it's a travesty.
It wouldn't surprise me if, say, 5 years ago, there was a meeting where they were like, we are going to standardize the game. The game is becoming a product. And the best way to explain it is to use McDonald's. Okay. It doesn't matter if you're in Kitchener, Ontario, or Chicago, Illinois, or Los Angeles, California, or Toledo, Ohio. It doesn't matter. You go into a McDonald's at any one of those 4 locations, you know exactly what you're getting. And I think that's what the NFL wants to do with their game. It doesn't matter what 2 teams are playing. You turn on an NFL game and you know what the NFL product is in the term of in the way that the game is generally structured and played.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much all the teams are generally starting to trend towards the same style of play. You're right. Like, in the past, you could say, well, the Steelers, they're a physical, the defense, and they run the ball. Mm-hmm. Now Ben Roethlisberger's a passing quarterback now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's not that rumbling, bumbling, stumbling sort of guy anymore. He drops back in the pocket, they spread it out, and they throw it to Antonio Brown, and he gets 200 yards a game or whatever.
You forgot raping in there. That was
you gotta get that in there.
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Please.
Well, I mean, the thing though, it was I guess back in the olden golden days of football, you could have like. They went to the steel curtain of Pittsburgh, the defensive line. Basically, it was like if you are like good at defense, but your offense kind of sucks, you were like this hard-nosed, gritty, hardworking team that knew how to get in the trenches and win close. Whereas if you were like a high-powered offense that didn't play great defense, you were like this kind of elegant, kind of feathery, like light on their feet. What athleticism?
It was like an elegant, high-end, like
a sports car or something.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But that does again though that really doesn't exist anymore. The difference. Teams don't have their own identities from a style of play.
Well,
some of them do. But
you talk about the finesse teams like the 49ers. The 80s 49ers are considered a finesse team.
Everyone's a
yes.
game now.
Yeah, but they had a great defense, which people forget about. And you know what else they had? They had a two running back system. Tom Rathman and Roger Craig were like at the height of their powers. Those were their two guys, and Rathman ran the ball a lot too. Again, even though you think of them as like maybe the forerunner of what we see today, they really kind of aren't. They were a lot more traditional in their offense than people like to talk about today. Like to go, well, this all started with Bill Walsh and the 49ers. It's like, no, I mean, I guess aspects of it did, but not completely, no.
I mean, go ahead.
Well,
Go ahead.
you talked about the devaluing of running backs. On the flip side, look at the defense. And we're talking about you mentioned the steel curtain. That's hard-nosed, in the trenches type football. What's the big name defensive group in the NFL right now?
Legion of Boom.
Legion of Boom, right. And they're all corners and safeties.
Secondary, yeah.
Well, hold on. Don't forget about our friend down in Houston, the mammoth man that eats people.
Justin James Watt is the exception. But
he's a freak. Yeah.
Well, the thing – sorry, the phone's ringing. The guys that are the stars are the secondary, like mostly cornerbacks, guys like Darrelle Revis, Patrick Peterson, etc., or the guys that can rush the quarterback because they're always passing. So guys like J.J. Watt. The middle linebackers, those big tough-nosed guys that were always the focal point of any defense. Mm-hmm. You know, Ray Lewis has come and gone. Like you always think of whenever Peyton Manning would go up against Ray Lewis, there's the chess match and they're barking at each other and doing all that stuff. Now who's the big middle linebacker that Peyton Manning's going to have to match wits with?
I can't think of any notable.
That's another position I think that's been devalued. It's all defensive line and secondary. Now the linebackers are there, I guess, to stand around in case something happens.
And not even defensive line, defensive ends.
Yeah, I guess the linebackers are there basically in case something happens in between the 3-yard running play that you try and the 20-yard pass. I don't know. But, name a great linebacker in the NFL right now.
Well, it would have been Patrick Willis, but he decided to retire early.
Right.
If I was playing for Tom Sula, I'd just retire out of principle.
No kidding.
I think so, too.
That's going to be the story of the NFL this year is the final crumbling of the 49ers. It's going to be incredible. I hope they do it.
It's going to be glorious. I can't wait to see Colin Kaepernick cry. It'll be fantastic.
I've seen a funny turnaround because when Tom Sula was first hired, everybody was down on him. And now as the season starts to come around, I've seen all these stories out of San Francisco like, oh, Tom Sula is such a great guy and he cares for the players and he's there for these men. And it's like, okay, what happens when he goes 0-4 to start the season? What happens when he finishes last place in the division?
Right.
What happens then?
Well, that happens every time it gets close to the season. You get that, you drink the Kool-Aid and you want to, and I mean, I understand a lot of these media outlets want to be excited. They want to have some optimism for the season because this is the NFL where anything can happen on any given Sunday. Ooh, the battle of great warriors. One of them will emerge. It could be the underdog, Jacksonville Jaguars, or whatever. the sorry-ass Cleveland Browns as they trot out their awful.
Now you're just being ridiculous.
I'm sorry.
Jaguars Browns, the marquee matchup in London, like in 2 years, I guarantee it.
Right.
I keep saying London's not going to want a team if these are the games that.
Here, watch this. It's the only game we could put on at 6 a.m, so nobody would watch.
The deal with damn it! Sorry, my screen is fucking up. The deal with getting excited for football, I think that is totally fair. I think it is. Everybody for at least a few weeks starts out with, especially with if they're a big homer team. It's like, I feel like maybe we have a chance to do something this year. They start to get a little bit more rational.
That's that's the Chargers fan base because
that's every fan base.
No,
that's the Cowboys. That's the Packers. That's even the Bears.
I'm just
even
bitching
if
about
you're going to be bad, you're still going to say.
I'm just bitching about my team because our thing is that the Chargers are just currently in the spot where it's like, oh, you're not good enough. You're not bad enough to completely fall apart, and I can just write you off. Like, you're just good enough to give me hope each year. And
you're in the dreaded middle. We've talked about it a gazillion times. You're not bad enough to get good again and not good enough to go any further than where you are.
Well, yeah. I hope they feel good about all the money they just gave Phillip Rivers when he starts sucking.
Hey, you know what? It's like, I don't know. He's going to be pissed if they end up going to Los Angeles and, like, he has to
I'm going to have to drive an hour.
Well,
train.
With with
have to live in Pacific Palisades. Fuck me, right?
I remember as not as so much as a kid, but as a teenager and in my early 20s, I'd get up early as hell to just out of sheer excitement every Sunday, and I'd be like, okay.
Oh yeah.
Bears could be the worst team in the league, and it's like, well, goddamn, I just want to see them play. I want to see how these players do, and I don't win or lose. I'd love for them to win, but I want to evaluate and just appreciate the game. And the pregame shows, I mean, there was always the same two, Fox and ESPN. I'd watch those, and it's like, they did an okay job. And I will say, for all the faults of the 20th Century Fox on a whole, I like their pregame show. It understands that it's ridiculous.
It doesn't take itself too seriously, unlike, ESPN, which has a goddamn fucking spaceship they film in.
The Starship ESPN?
Yes.
The Galaxy class set? Go ahead, Zach.
But they're moving their pregame, like they had an hour extra pregame show on Fox Sports 1 that they're moving before the regular pregame show on Big Fox. And you know who's going to be the host of that show? Colin Cowherd.
Oh, that ought to be good.
Enjoy super serious football early in the morning on Fox before they go to Michael Strahan. He's talking to Jimmy Johnson, and everybody's having a great time. And
another thing there's two more things that have ruined this offseason for me in particular. One of them is Tom Brady. And
oh my God, yeah.
If you listen to CBS Radio, Fox Sports Radio, ESPN Radio, especially
sports radio.
If you're local, like thankfully, if I listen to any local Chicago stations, they don't waste their time on this crap. But this Deflategate nonsense is getting just the most disproportionate amount of airtime to anything. Nobody cares. I mean, he's suspended. He's going to miss a few games, but that is 30, you have 31 other teams with stuff going on that deserve at least a mention. Go around the freaking horn or something. Make some phone calls. Call some beat reporters.
And you know what? It's only going to get worse.
I mean,
it's only going to get worse for those first 4 games he's suspended for.
Yeah.
For those 4 games, I guarantee you, every one of those 4 games will have at least 30 shots of Tom Brady sitting like angrily in a box somewhere.
He's going to be holding the clipboard, or he's going to be talking to.
He's not allowed to be at the stadium.
No, well, he'll be.
I think he could be in the crowd.
He's not allowed to be at the
stadium.
Yeah, well, hey, that saves us a lot of unnecessary bullshit, right?
It's the Patriots. He'll be, John Bravey will be on the sideline recently.
That, or they will have a camera set up in his living room, something along those lines,
like the draft or something.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And I still think that he'll take some sort of shorter sentence by the time the season actually starts. He's only going to sit out like a game or two.
Probably. But either way, it's just like, no. Is there not another story anywhere else? I mean, it's bad.
Not really?
But I mean,
Johnny Manziel in rehab, that's gold. Come on,
Tim
cover
Tebow
that.
is playing for the Eagles. Like, even that, I can't believe they're not giving that more airtime. It's like, your guy, Tim Tebow, he's playing. Isn't it something? Like, doesn't it serve anything? He's on the East Coast. That's what you want.
Isn't it a sad state of affairs where we're begging ESPN to focus on Tim Tebow?
Well, I mean, I get it.
I miss the good old days where all you talked about was Tim Tebow.
I get it. The Patriots won the Super Bowl, and Tom Brady's a megastar, and that there's a lot of more controversial stories that are more fun to cover. And I understand that nobody wants to hear about what the Falcons are doing, and nobody wants to hear about what this team or that team are doing. These kind of, like you said, the Chargers, these bubble teams that are just kind of like in this horrible football hell where they aren't defined.
Hey, if we're lucky, we'll be able to win at least a game against an old falling apart Peyton Manning this season. So
you play in the same division as the Raiders, so you'll figure something out. I mean, there's this, and that's the thing is though, like it is rational for teams to have excitement right now, because for fans to have excitement, because there is legitimately a chance that your team could come out hot as a pistol. There's going to be 1 or 2 teams that are going to, start off 4-0 or 5-0 or 6-1. Yeah. And it's going to be like, those are the big stories. Hell, the Bears 2 years ago started out, I think like 5-1 or something before they just
Bills.
Right. The Bills. I mean, the Bills. There's going to be one of those teams that's going to surprise people before they inevitably crumble or lose in the first round of the playoffs.
Well, I could make a half serious argument that the Cleveland Browns could be good this year.
You don't know until they play, and there's going to be teams that just get lucky and pull wins out of their ass.
Right.
Happen. And there's going to be some 13-3 team that does not deserve to be in the playoffs.
Like the Chiefs a few years ago, but yeah.
there will be a 4-12 team that will be still in contention for the playoffs. Come on, Tampa Bay Bucks.
NFC. Oh, I'm looking forward to the
NFC South. My favorite division.
It's such a, and I'll tell you, I'm sorry, Zach, for this, but I now officially hate Andrew Luck. I hate him.
Oh.
It's not his fault. No, well, yeah, but the reason I hate him is because there's this article put out, which I'm going to post in the chat, and I will post it, to the, basically, sports thread and thing, where pretty much this horrible story from the Indianapolis Star, compared because the Bears and Colts are playing this week in preseason. Okay. Get hyped. And there's this article that basically it's like a Cardinals beat writer is writing it. Where they talk about what a wonderful human being, what an average Joe Andrew Luck is. And
but he is.
He's a fucking putback. Go ahead.
I'll take Andrew Luck over Russell Wilson.
Right. We talked about this, I think, 2 weeks ago, where Andrew Luck and Russell Wilson have kind of the same public persona, right? But
no.
But I mean in terms of like the aw shucks, all thanks to everybody else sort of thing. But remember we said Andrew Luck seems genuine. Russell Wilson's is completely manufactured.
Russell, I will take.
I like Andrew Luck. Yeah, he is a good, just down home guy. He just plays football.
The whole article was comparing him to Jay Cutler, who is just a douchebag, and everybody knows.
He's the anti-hero.
Right, but it's just like I just read it. I mean, the first thing came to mind was St. Louis Cardinals. He's a white guy who plays the game the right way, the Cardinal way, and that's the whole. I was just reading like, oh God, if they could say the Cardinal way, they totally would.
I would.
The Colts way.
I have to.
Hashtag Colts strong.
Go ahead, Mike.
I have to admit, guys like Jay Cutler. Like, Jay Cutler has almost single-handedly made me a pseudo-Bears fan because, he doesn't give a shit, and I admire that.
I like Jay Cutler. I always have. I'm sorry.
And I will say, Jay Cutler, for all his faults, he's not a bad teammate. Everyone wants to rag on him. Oh, Brandon Marshall coming out. The ultimate bad teammate, Brandon Marshall coming out. And guess who yesterday just bailed on Geno Smith? Oh, yeah, Brandon Marshall. It didn't even take one preseason for him to get through trash in his current team.
Well, I mean, the guy did get punched in the face.
True. But I mean,
probably was a bad teammate. But
Marshall is an awful piece of crap too, and I'm glad he's gone. Yeah. But Cutler has an incredible arm. He's never going to win anything. He's never going to win anything. He won't win a playoff game. He may not even. I guess he did win a playoff game. Damn it! But he's just a guy with an exceptionally good arm who just doesn't flatter. He doesn't have that Polish name and that gritty can-do attitude like Favre or whomever.
I want him to actually pull out a cigarette on the sideline.
I was just thinking the exact same thing. I want him to
just flip off, walk up to the line, flip off the middle linebacker, and just keep flipping the bird to wherever he can.
No, I want him to walk up to the line, flip off the linebacker, flip off the crowd, and throw a touchdown pass. That would be the best thing to me.
I'd say if he wanted to become a hero in the city of Chicago, all he'd have to do is after, let's say he throws a hypothetical game-winning touchdown, and during the post-game press conference, he puts on Wayfarer sunglasses, black shades, and lights up a cigar. And then he would be an instant hero. Like that was he could just ash his cigar on a reporter's microphone, and that would be that. And people would go, "Oh, I love this guy. I can't believe I've never seen it before." Just because he would appeal to all the dumbasses who live and breathe Bears football with me. We are all a bunch of dumbasses. But
I think Jay Cutler probably, if he had stayed on the Broncos, he probably would have been better.
Well, I have you guys here, and I'm glad you're all here because I wanted to bring this up to get your opinion because I think you're going to disagree with me. I cannot stand fantasy football. I hate it.
I have a love-hate relationship with it.
Same here.
I go back and forth. There was a time where I got 4 teams and I was all about it. But as that season went on, I just it made me like the game less and less because I was always seeing who was on my team, and I was too concerned with it.
Right.
So I got rid of it. I limit myself to one team a year. I pick it. I set a lineup on Monday, and I don't really, I'll occasionally work the waiver wire, but I won't if I win, I win. If I lose, no big deal. I don't take it to heart anymore.
If I spend more than 10 minutes on it on any given day, I think I'm spending too much time on it. Mm-hmm. That's why I've
never gotten into it, and I I don't know. I'm trying to find a way to say this without sounding hypocritical because I'm into fantasy hockey.
Sure, me too.
But I guess with fantasy football, I get the sense more so than any other, fantasy sports variant that with fantasy football, it just, out of all of them, it does it the worst of basically just reducing everything down to a set of numbers.
Well, here's the thing like baseball is a game of statistics. It is the most statistic driven sport ever. Football is not like that. I mean, it is, but it isn't. Like you can look at a baseball player. There's so many games that you can derive actual legitimate imperative numbers. Football's a lot more random. It's not as random as hockey.
Right.
Hockey's mega random. Hockey is the control for random.
But over the course of a week and 4 games that are played, 3 or 4 games that are played in a hockey week,
yeah,
the guy with the better team is going to end up on top more likely than not.
True. But
in football, you're going to have a running back that runs for 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
And he's going to be on somebody's bench. And you're never going to be able to predict it, really.
But
yes,
you set your
from
lineup,
experience, Zach.
Well, you set your lineup as best you can, and then sometimes crazy stuff happens. Like I had a week last week year where Drew Brees only got me 4 points, and I sat I think Andy Dalton on the bench, and Andy Dalton had 25 points. And it's how are you supposed to pick that? How are you supposed to know that?
But that's the thing. See, all that I'm fine with. The part that I think, and maybe this is what you're talking about, Andy, I don't know, are the people that take it so seriously. The whole fantasy football thing where it's it consumes them. And that's
more important than their own favorite team.
Exactly. Even
favorite
more,
teams or fantasy team.
More important than not just their favorite team, but more important than maybe a lot of things in their life.
Yes, and that's kind of my overall point. Well, I mean, it's not actually, but I mean, it's part of it. Like the football, I've seen people coworkers who I was friends with at the time become legitimately violently upset with one of them to the point where it was like there's going to be blows thrown because of a trade or some guy is giving up. The worst is when a guy starts out 0-4 and just kind of trades his players away for nothing, or he just gives up, Yeah. But also, what ruins it for me is that I found myself watching the games. Yes, I'd have a vested interest around the other games, and it got me watching other games, which is good. If you haven't, with hockey, I hadn't watched hockey in a while, and so I wanted to learn the league because I was so Blackhawk-centric. So I did fantasy hockey. Same thing with baseball. I hadn't watched it in a while. Fantasy baseball got me back into knowing the sport and knowing the athletes on different teams, spreading out. But with football, it was I found myself okay, the Bears, I need them to lose 45-40.
Yeah. So
that Des Bryant can have 4 touchdowns. Right. And it's but no, fuck that. I want the Bears to win 574-0. Right. And the other team to somehow score negative points. I don't want to slightly celebrate, even in a tiny way, when the opposing team does something good or a certain player. Plus, I don't want to have the entire game be about stats. I don't want to watch, because it puts you on the offense too, because it's all you watch is you say, okay, well, that's a touch. I got 2 points for that. How many yards? Okay, do the math, 1.5, blah, blah, blah. And it's just no, screw that. Look at the offensive line. Look at the scheme. Look at the coaches. Look at the sideline. Look at everything. There's a whole huge game to experience and soak in. Don't have half of your brain back at some computer or on your phone, thinking of this other fake bullshit game just so you can win a tiny trophy or something.
I remember a specific instance.
We don't win anything in our leagues, do we? Other than
no.
You know what I mean, though. It's just
you think I'm spiffing for a trophy for you guys? No.
You cheap fucking.
But I remember a specific instance where a running back that I had had a 60-yard run. And he got tackled at the 2 or something. Yeah. And I was okay, well, feed him. Give him again. I need him to get a touchdown, and I'd win my fantasy game. Well, they ran a play-action pass. And, they fake it to him, so it got me mad. And it was just I lost because the guy got tackled at the 2 instead of rolling into the end zone a couple extra yards.
I
remember being, kind of mad about it. And it was at that point where I'm this is dumb. I don't want to do this anymore.
I had the unfortunate, I don't like the Seahawks, but I had them as my defense on one of my 2 fantasy football teams.
Sure.
And it's very difficult because you want them to do well, but you don't want them to do well.
Yeah.
It's tough. And I did learn one thing, though, about football with my fantasy team last year. Peyton Manning inside the 5-yard line, very rarely is the running back going to score a touchdown. That dude is great at padding his touchdown stats when he gets down close like that, because I had, what's his name, C.J. Anderson? Mm-hmm. And he would put up a lot of yards, but he rarely scored a touchdown. And I thought, And I started watching, and it was like, you know what? When Manning gets down there, he'll try one run. If it doesn't go in, guess what? It's going to be 2 passes, and then if they don't get that, we're kicking a field goal. So I did learn that about Manning, and that a lot, I won't say a lot, but there is a percentage of his touchdown stats that I think if he weren't as free to call his own plays, I don't think he'd have as many TD passes, because I think we'd see a lot more running backs scoring touchdowns, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I did learn that from fantasy football, but that's about all I can say about it. And it made me root for the Seahawks, which I'm still not sure I'm comfortable with.
Right.
But okay, so I mean that's great. I mean, obviously that makes you open your mind up to the dynamics of football and certain players and offenses, strategy. But at the same token, I just don't. I feel like football is of all sports. There is so much on every play, and there's a lot of emotion and a lot of like heart and passion. The core elements of the game that I fell in love with are always going to be there. And that the sacrifice and the passion, there's the meatball things inside myself that I as a former high school player, I'm still wearing my jacket right now, as a matter of fact.
But this 3-year Letterman, I'll have you know.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, you understand, it's just like, okay, I want to see that essence of football play out, the battle of wills and the kind of chess match on the field. But I can't fully appreciate it because I'm jerking around for my stupidly named fantasy team to make sure that, you know, the guy who doesn't get into the end zone, that sucks. But at the same time, it was like, well, man, that was a great effort. Or, well, you know, maybe there was a key block that was missed or whatever. I can focus on that. It's like, no, I hate him now. I hate him because he didn't go that extra 2 yards. It's his fault. He sucks. He's letting me down. Why doesn't he realize he's letting me down? He's at the 2-yard line. He made, you know, it's like if he made an 80-yard run and that's where he stopped, it's like, it's a hell of a run, but Jesus, get at the end zone. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it or something, but and also the fucking marketing for it. Jesus Christ.
That's the thing. That's what drives me nuts about it, is that it was kind of cool when it wasn't a thing like it is now, where it's everybody plays it. Everybody plays it. They advertise
everybody
it
has
now.
An office league and that's
and it's just, it's lost its kind of insider feel to it, where I think with us with fantasy hockey, not everybody plays that. Yeah. And we feel like, you know, you have to be a pretty good fan to play fantasy hockey. It's not just any idiot can show up and play it. Although I've proven that's not so much the case.
Yeah, Greg, you did, and then you did pretty well. So.
Well, I think I undersell my hockey knowledge a little bit too.
You have a basic knowledge of the sport.
Right. And I think I know a little bit more than I let on, but still, it's not the same as in fantasy football. I mean, and this is no knock on my girlfriend. She knows sports better than most girlfriends do, but she was in a fantasy football league and won it last year because it was her and like 5 other nurses that she knows. And I thought, this isn't the same as us going, hey, you know what? We're in a fantasy hockey league because we're big time hockey fans and we know the sport. In fantasy football, and God, I don't mean to like follow up a statement about my girlfriend by calling somebody a fucking idiot, but any fucking idiot can show up and win in fantasy football. And I just think that takes some of the fun out of it.
It's like a March Madness pool.
Exactly. You know? Exactly. Yeah. You know, I'm hearing from
that's what I think we mean by the inherent randomness of some of the results. Some weeks, some guy's going to go off for 3 touchdowns. Other weeks, he's going to get 20 yards. You know, you just never know.
The part of any NFL pregame broadcast or any kind of NFL focused show, my least favorite part, the part that actually makes me physically angry to sit through, is when they talk about fantasy. It's like, we're going to go to our fantasy guys.
The fantasy expert. What a bunch of
last minute fantasy experts.
Matthew Berry.
Shut the fuck up. Like, first of all, I don't play fantasy football. And 2, if I did, I'd probably be like Zach. I would have set my lineup a week ago and it's not changing.
I don't even know. Zach and I are in the same league, and one of the 2 leagues I'm in, and I don't know that we even really talk smack or anything to each other in the league very often. It's just like we all set our lineups. If we win, great. If we lose, oh well, no big deal. You know, but I hear about people. Matthew Berry, the guy from ESPN, the quote unquote fantasy expert, is in a league on the Howard Stern show. And I mean, they had a special on Sirius Radio last week where they did their draft and all that. And it was disgusting listening to these guys. I mean, they took it so damn seriously. They were constantly like just insulting each other and stuff. And I mean, it was funny to a point, but then you started to realize like these guys are taking this like probably way more seriously than they should.
Well, look at like the origins of fantasy baseball, just a small group of
right.
friends or associates nerds. It was
exactly.
It was a numbers
with your sabermetrics and your calculators and.
But I mean, honestly,
calculator, shove it up your ace.
It's a bunch of guys that sat around a table or every day they would check the newspaper or whatever and mail their lineups in. And a lot of it was
tabulate the statistics, Jerry. Okay.
But it was very charming. Fantasy sports on a small level is extremely charming because it's just a niche. It's a very small select enthusiasts, and when you saturated to where it's like, everybody, fantasy football is a thing. Come on down. Let's grab some Busch Light and hang out with our friends and watch some football and do our fantasy teams. And no, stop it. It's the same thing that the NFL is doing where it's just like, oh, everybody come on in. Let's all do this. It's like, no. Football, you were already cool. You didn't need to tell everyone how cool you were. You just
fantasy football to me, and keep in mind, I say this as someone who has never actually played fantasy football, so this is all just an outsider's take on it. Okay. But to me, it seemed to have jumped the shark.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It jumped the shark when you could when you were able to play fantasy football through the NFL site.
Yeah,
like when that happened, we kind of went like through the looking glass.
Well, I mean, I've heard figures. I can't come up with them off the top of my head, but how much money fantasy football makes it's like Andy said, there was a time when fantasy sports, I think all of them, even football, it was kind of a cool niche thing that if you were a fan that you really knew the game, you could play it. Now anybody, I mean, literally anybody can show up and be in a fantasy football league.
There was a time when fantasy sports were pure.
That's right.
Untouched.
Motherfuckers, that's exactly right.
It was. And honestly, there was. And we'll go back to it. We will go back to it. There's going to be the like the economic crisis, the housing, the whatever it was, the
bust,
the bubble bust of 2008 or whatever. That's going to happen with football.
Yeah,
it's going to be something. It's getting close. I think most fans
got really close last year.
Oh, we're just
we were just Peyton Manning discovering that Peyton Manning was running like a cockfighting ring away from.
Well, because you have the Ray Rice thing and the Adrian Peterson thing, and if there was one more big thing that happened, it could have all blown up in everybody's face.
I disagree. Really? I think that we moved the needle a little bit back towards reason last year, but I think we were still a long way off from the collapse. There was a lot of bad things that happened, but you've got to remember, most NFL fans aren't. I won't say most. A lot of NFL fans aren't like us, where we would be ready to step away if something horrible happened. Like Mike stepped away for a while. I don't think I think he's a very rare case in the overall NFL fandom. And I think we moved the needle a little bit, but I think we're still a long way from the collapse.
I think it was telling, though, last season that for the first time you had sponsors come out and say, something needs to happen. For the first time, we actually had sponsors saying something the NFL is doing isn't working. And I think that's a sign. And I just can't. Okay, my general feeling of the NFL these days is like when I was in high school or university or like early university, like first, second year of undergrad, I had this feeling of the NFL is amazing. It is awesome. I love watching it. But at the same, but it seems that since then, instead of just leaving well enough alone, instead of just saying, hey, we're the most popular sports league that's ever existed, let's just run with it. Instead of just staying at that like point of perfection, I guess, they kept tinkering with it. And now we're at the point where I kind of just see it as this monster that has just kept eating, and it's just so big. Well, it's too fucking big. permanent Thursday night games were almost too much for me to bear.
They want it to be nightly. If they could make it nightly, they would. But it's very similar to the Monty Python Life of Brian scene where there's a huge man, like slovenly huge. Every time he eats, he pukes on himself a little bit. he looks like he's about to burst. He's eaten so much. He's eaten like tons and tons of food, and he can't eat a bite more. And the waiter comes up to him and he says, "Would you like a tiny mint?
One thin wafer?
One thin mint wafer?" So, fuck off. And he finally opens his mouth and the guy puts a little wafer on his tongue and then he just explodes. He literally explodes. Like that is what's going to happen with the NFL. And I don't think it's just going to be the arrests. Like that is a whole nother ball of wax that I don't think we can really say, well, statistically, if you're a black running back in the NFL, chances are you're going to beat your wife or something. Like it's not that you can't correlate that data. It's just people being people. It was surely coincidental and awful for the NFL. But what needs to happen and what's going to happen is that they're going to make a very dumb series of rule changes that routinely make games go into the 40s and 50s in scores. It's going to happen. There's going to be some sort of fundamental change to the game that will be agreed upon by ownership because they just simply they overstep their bounds. They get too greedy.
Exactly.
And it breaks the game. And it's something that will hit so drastically that I think within probably 3 years it's going to happen. I'm anticipating that when that happens, there's going to be a completely different type of thing. We're going to see the NFL collapse. I think baseball is going to become the big game again.
Yes.
It will become the big game. I think football just needs to fall down.
Hockey's time to shine.
I'll be damned about hockey. First of all, fuck Patrick Kane. I just want to get that out of the way. The other thing is, hockey, it pisses me off because like they always, these people love to show, and we're going off topic here, people love to show the, this night game between the Rangers and the what-a-dod, it got higher ratings than Game 6 of the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. It's like, well, no shit. Or no, it was a preseason football game. A preseason football game got higher ratings than Game 6 of the finals on NBC.
Pro Bowl
probably got higher ratings than Game 6 of the World Series, man. I mean,
but it's like you can't compare it. It's the NFL,
right?
It's a whole different animal.
It's once a week, which. It's just, I don't know.
And guess what?
It's once a week. It has the hype machine, and you just got to get somebody to watch one primetime game, and that's it.
Yeah.
But with the NHL, it's a day in, day out northeastern corridor league. But
the thing is that the NFL used to be that. It used to be special. The NFL used to be unique in the way that you had a slate of games on Sunday. You had one marquee matchup Sunday night and one marquee matchup Monday night, and that's all it was. And that was good because it helped the NFL stand out. Now we've got Thursday games.
It made me want to
garbage.
Like Sunday night games, it was like Sunday, especially Monday night. It was like, it's like, okay.
Monday night games used to be good too.
Well,
that's the other thing.
Yeah, but that you can't, that's totally coincidental. I feel like
no.
They
used to, the prime time, like the matchup of the week used to be reserved for Monday night. And then when they switched the contracts, then the game of the week became Sunday night. And Monday night became just kind of another game.
Yeah, and that was a little bit of the NFL throwing a little FU at ESPN, too, for the way they handled that Monday night contract,
Sure, and absolutely. It was deserved for the time it was handled.
Yeah, sure.
But, I mean, that's just one thing. It's more of like...
But yeah, the thing is, though, like Mike was saying, I think, is that it was a once-a-week thing. And then you had the Monday night game, which is usually a big matchup. Now... It's just you never get a break from it. As I think the thing that we keep coming back to is that you never get 5 minutes to step away from the NFL and go, you know what? It's not special anymore because they won't let it be special anymore. It's just constantly shoved down your throat, day in, day out, 365 days a year.
During the season, it's game time every single day, and then once the season's over, then it's the draft, then it's free agency, then it's OTAs, and then all of a sudden we're back in training camp again, and we're in the mix all over again.
With the NFL, during football season, the NFL is broken. Its schedule revolves around weeks. There's week 1, week 2, so on and so forth. It used to be that, you could do that because all the games were on Sunday, and save for one that was on Monday. So you could say, okay, the football week starts Sunday morning, with the pregame shows, and it lasts until the postgame show following Monday Night Football. That is your block. That is your football week. It's small, condensed. It's 48 hours of just football, or 24, or like 36 hours of just awesome football, and then the rest of the week's fine. And then Sunday you start again, you go through Monday, and it's but now you get one game on Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday nothing happens.
Those Thursday games are the worst too. God, are they always bad. I think maybe one game a year is good. The players hate them. God,
well, you've got usually it's not going to be a marquee matchup because they're not going to waste that on a Thursday night. And then you've got teams coming in on short rest. Yeah. So the quality of play is bad. The teams aren't very good. And then this is, you want to talk about being a bunch of hypocrites. They talk about how they're so concerned about safety, yet they schedule these Thursday night games, which I gotta think are just extremely dangerous to the players. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous.
Sorry about the noises. The live stream is done. So
they're warning us that we're finished.
They give you like a 10-minute warning and 1-minute warning.
Okay. But anyway, but going back to what Mike was talking about with it was special for 36 hours. It used to be back when I was really big into the Browns back in the 80s. It was like that. It was like, you heard a little bit about the Browns during the week on the local media, and that was it. And it was all came down to, Sunday, pregame, game, and then maybe a little bit of talk about it on Monday, and that was it. And you were done until the following weekend. It wasn't like constant, just always in your face every single day. And it made it really special and a lot of fun. And I don't think you get that anymore. It's like baseball without the games.
Now, the one thing that Zach said that really perturbed me is the every day is game day. God, doesn't that just sound like a beer commercial?
It does.
That sounds like a Bud Light slogan. Every day is game day.
I think it is a slogan for somebody, isn't it?
Probably was at some point.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's and it may not even be, this whole thing may not even be a symptom of the NFL or a problem with the NFL. Maybe it's just us. We just suck at this.
What are the odds that all four of us would?
No. Not us. Like the four of us. I'm talking about like just American media and society. We just suck. We're just all awful. Everything. We can't just have something nice. It has to. We have to.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
We have to ruin everything. Like we can't have novelties anymore.
This is true. I agree.
Like, they wouldn't. We're special because we kind of look at this stuff critically.
We're smarter than the average fan. Everyone else is retarded compared to us. You hear that?
I completely agree with that. But hey,
but what I mean is,
in St. Louis, fuck them and their fake pizza.
What I mean is, the NFL does play down to a lowest common denominator sort of person, right?
Oh yeah.
And there are people that eat this shit up. They want it every day, 24/7. They want to know who's battling for the defensive tackle spot all the way back in May. They want to know this shit. And
these are the people who are genuinely impressed by that opening shot on NFL Countdown of Mike Ditka studying game film.
Yeah.
He doesn't watch a fucking minute of game film. No, I mean, there are plenty of good broadcasters out there. It's not to discredit a lot of the guys that cover the NFL, because I feel like as a professional broadcaster, I mean, not myself, obviously, but like, I feel like Zach, for example, are you professional? Are you paid broadcaster or paid journalist?
I am paid to write football stories. Yes.
Okay. I'm a paid broadcaster. High school football. Yeah. I mean,
okay.
Yeah.
Then you can appreciate even at the smallest levels to the largest levels that there is a meticulous amount of research you have to do. You have to know what's going on. You can't just be completely aloof and walk into a thing blank. I feel like a lot of guys on pregame and postgame shows, depending on the individual, are mostly just kind of just like, hey, I'm getting a paycheck. I'll just kind of pull some thoughts out of my ass here, and then we'll move on, and that's it.
Ray Lewis. Basically, yeah.
Great minds think alike.
It's sad to say it, but I mean, like, what's the gap tooth dude in Fox Sports?
Michael Strahan.
I think he's 50-50. I think sometimes he has a really good thought, and then like he'll kind of forget what he's talking about. Then it's sort of just.
Is Shannon Sharp still on CBS?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think he's
he left. He got replaced by Bart Scott.
See, I liked Shannon Sharp, mostly because I couldn't understand half of what he was saying, but he seemed really passionate about it.
I think there was a time, too, where the pregame shows weren't as technical as they are now, where it was more the Bears defense is going to have a tough time with the Detroit offense. It wasn't like, okay, to watch the safety break away and do this and that and the other thing. And I think that, I don't know. It just, I keep going back to the same thing. I sound like a broken record, but it's just too much. You've got to just give me a break for a little while.
Well, it's kind of like why I like Fox, and I think it's like the same reason that Andy likes Fox, because it's like, we're just doing goofy shit, and here's a robot in a football helmet. It's like, okay, I get that.
There is some charm to it still. And
I agree.
And I mean, I grew up with John Madden, and I mean, he was, a little bit of an X's and O's guys, but he was kind of a caricature of himself, on the broadcast. But it was just like pregame stuff, as long as it's fun. And it also, like, that's like 3 hours before game time. Totally understand. Like, I love on game days, you've got plenty of time to do pregame. I don't care if it's 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever. 2 is probably good. 3 is fine. 4 is way too much, but it's fine. It's whatever. It's on Sunday. That's fine. After the game, you've got post game stuff for the rest of the night. That's fine. I'm totally cool with that. Monday, you've got your stuff dedicated to Monday Night Football. That's perfectly acceptable. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I don't need football. I don't want football.
No.
Leave me alone. But I don't need, 30 minutes of every sports center dedicated to the NFL and what's going on, unless it's like,
you're going to get it.
ESPN Radio, and I don't know if they still do it anymore because I kind of don't listen to them anymore, but they used to have this thing where they guaranteed you an NFL segment every hour, every day of the year. So you could be May 25th. Coming up in this next half hour, you're guaranteed NFL. I forget what they called it, but it was basically they were guaranteeing you they were going to talk about the NFL for at least one segment every hour of every day of every year.
And I guarantee you that they do that because the NFL told ESPN to do that. But here's the sad thing. If the NFL thinks that increasing their exposure year round is going to help them, then they're idiots. It's doing the opposite. They need to be missed. They need football to be seen as this 36-hour window for 16 weeks a year. That's what makes it special. That's what makes people love it so much.
It'll come back to that, Mike. I think it will. I think the Goodell is, unfortunately for him, even though he's totally incompetent.
I don't know what he does. What does he do on a day-to-day basis?
No, well, his purpose is brilliant. His purpose is to be the face of a few hundred, if not a few thousand people. Mm-hmm. Probably a few hundred, and their board of directors or whatever, all the owners of the teams and all that stuff. He's just kind of a dope who wears a suit and says the words that he is told to say and doesn't ask any questions. Did you ever see the movie Casino?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the movie Casino, there's a guy, I can't remember his name, I think Greenberg, something like that, who Robert De Niro pays him to, in the mob, pays him to be the front man for these legitimate businesses, to own a casino. Whereas reality, behind all the scenes, it's Robert De Niro's character and this whole mafia crew running these casinos and infiltrating Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. This is basically what's happening with Roger Goodell in the NFL. There's a bunch of these corporate masters and overseers, not the Goblin overseer, but a very meta comment there.
Yes.
Who come in and basically run the entire league as far as what they can do, as far as metrics and improving statistics, as far as improving ratings, making more money for everybody. That's the whole point. But once they kind of see that the public is turning against them, it's one of those things where there is no going back. We have to fire this guy and put in a new guy who will put on this new false face and say, "Oh, we're just going to go back to be in the NFL again. We're just going to have football and that's it." It'll happen. It will happen.
I'm shocked he survived. I'm honestly shocked Goodell survived that last season.
I think last year was a big test, Mike. I think they were really, really close. And it was obviously discussed, but I think it was one of those things where it's like, if we can just get just one more year, we have to ride this thing out. And they're going to keep doing that as long as it's not like the Joe Paterno thing, the outcry to have justice for that situation, as horrible as it was, that demanded immediate action. It's going to take.
Unfortunately, it will take the revelation that Roger Goodell has been running a rape ring out of the NFL headquarters.
Oh my God!
But you know what? They're talking about it going back. That's the thing, though. Can we ever put that genie back in the bottle because of the 24-hour sports networks that we have now? Because that's where a lot of the problem lies. Is that You've got all, you've got
fill time.
You've got ESPN, you've got Fox Sports 1, you've got NBC Sports, I guess to a lesser extent CBS Sports Network, Yahoo Sports, all the sports outlets, trying to have the information that no one else has. So if ESPN does an hour of football a day, then Fox Sports 1 has to do 90 minutes and so on. And that's how I think how it rolls and it just keeps going and going and going. You know?
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh, I thought I heard you trying to make a point. Yeah, I mean, I get the escalation thing where it makes a lot of sense to where they go, well, 90 minutes and 2 hours and all this stuff. But I don't know. It's lost its charm. I mean, I'm saying this now, like I've packed my suitcase and I put on my hat. I'm leaving the NFL. I'm leaving. I'm gone. You've abused me for too long. But then I kind of, it's me, honey. Open the door. Can I come back in or whatever?
Then you remember the 85 Bears and you can't walk away.
I remember the Dan Hampton nearly killing Hipple of the Detroit Lions, crushing his brain pan onto the field of the Silverdome in 1985 as they scraped his remains off of the turf. I mean,
that's not too far from the truth, really, with that 85 defense, but yeah.
Well, I don't know. Football is the uncomfortable mistress. I think we all share that. It's like, well, you irritate me, damn you, and you've treated me bad.
Zach, do you think it's a little easier for us because we're more college football fans these days, where it doesn't seem as, I know Andy, you're not a big fan of college football, and Mike, you're kind of like iffy on it too. But like me,
my big problem is that it's too goddamn big, and that's a big problem for me because I don't live in a college football heavy area, so
I have to pay attention to all 122 teams.
No, I don't have to pay attention to 122.
Or 156, I should say. Sorry.
I don't have to pay attention to all the teams, but there's the team that I want to root for, but I can I can hardly ever find them, so I kind of just give up.
Well, yeah, Canada's different. Isn't the NCAA getting a little bit more penetration into Canada though when it comes to?
It is. But even then, it's sort of like, if I want to watch Auburn, how am I going to watch Auburn? Because it's like, oh yeah, NCAA in Canada, awesome. It's like, oh, it's Western Michigan versus Notre Dame. Okay. It's like, I don't care.
No, college football, the playoff helps. It's nice. I mean, we're kind of
playoffs awesome.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I love the weekly intrigue. I love the weekly intrigue where they have the secret cabal of masters who are like, this is going to be our top 4 this week, and we'll see how the puppets react.
That's right. We saw the puppet masters last year go, well, let's see here. We've got the big money school. We've got 2 little schools that nobody gives a shit about. Let's put the big money school in and see what happens. And
then they won the championship.
Damn right.
I bet Greg was completely pleased with how the playoff turned out.
I was pretty, like I told these guys, it was after they beat Alabama, I swear to God, and to this day I stand by this, I didn't care what happened after that. They could have lost to Oregon 105-0, and it wouldn't have bothered me a bit.
Greg, what you just said is the essence of college football fans. I feel like that is the very foundation. It's like, I don't care if they lose every fucking game 100-0 as long as they beat Auburn. I can go to sleep at night. That's all that matters.
Well, I think in that specific situation, though, you're not expected to be there. You're supposed to lose, and you hate Alabama. Great, beat Alabama. But in the regular season, Greg would. To kind of justify what Andy's saying, if Ohio State went 1-11 and their one win was against Michigan,
it wouldn't be as bad as if that one win was against Illinois or Purdue. Yeah, is that what you're asking me?
But would your season be validated?
Oh fuck no, and you only get one win against Michigan? No way, no.
What if Michigan is 11-0 going into the game and they have a spot in the national championship game on the line? And Ohio State beats them as an 0-11 team.
Well, it wouldn't validate the season, whereas okay, everything else doesn't matter. But yeah, it would take a lot of the sting right out of it. Sure, yeah. To beat Michigan, to screw them, yeah. I mean, that's what it's all about.
College football is a very the turnover rate of rosters is extremely high, and you lose guys you're guaranteed a little bit of parity among the top echelon of schools because the teams that go on to win the championships generally
All their players are getting drafted.
The entire Florida State roster is currently in the NFL right now. You know, I mean, and there's a lot of Buckeyes that went to the NFL, and I mean, it's just how it works every year. So, you know, each year your team gets some new faces, and it's forced deprecation, I guess, of the teams. Not deprecation necessarily in terms of quality of entertainment, but in terms of you're constantly getting a refreshed bunch of dudes.
I think another thing I like about college football too, over the NFL, is that it's not all everybody running the exact same offense. Although it's starting to be with the spread and all that, but you still get a team that runs the triple option, like an Air Force or an Army or a Navy or somebody like that.
Georgia Tech.
You get variations. You know, some teams are on a pro set like Alabama.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that attracts me to college, and kind of something we touched on earlier with the NFL. The NFL is all going to the same game.
Right.
Where on college football, yeah, there's a lot of games and a lot of teams and a lot of stuff going on, but you also get a big variety in terms of the athletes that are on all these teams. And so some coaches, they may not have the horses to run with an Alabama or whatever. So they have to figure out a different way to beat them. So they try the triple option. They try a different defense. They try running these wildcat things because they have to. Whereas in the NFL, everybody is generally the same type of physical specimen. Where in college, there are haves and have-nots, and you have to cope with what you're dealt with.
I think that's a big reason too why everybody was so interested in Chip Kelly going to the Eagles, right? Because we all knew he was going to bring a new twist to the NFL offense and to the league. And even though I'm not an Eagles fan, I wanted to see them because I wanted to see what he would do, because it would be different than what we normally see every week.
No, indeed, but even then, I mean, are we actually going to see that? Because his big plan to build his offense his way kind of got derailed when he couldn't get his quarterback.
Well, he got Sam Bradford. Come on.
Yeah, well, he did make a lot of moves. I'm more interested to see what happens this year with him than in season previous.
When he starts
season previous, he still played the game a little bit differently. They've run more plays than any other team in NFL history has on a consistent basis. They play fast. They play differently enough that they're different from, you know, every other NFL team.
Right.
What if he starts all white players?
Well, that would make it very tough for him to defend those black players saying he's racist.
That'd be so awkward. God, that's.
You know, the sad truth to that is that there would be a lot of people, not only in Philadelphia, but I think across the country, that would secretly be very happy with that. And that's a shame, but it's true.
Philadelphia, come on.
St. Louis would be like, why can't
it works for us.
St. Louis would be like, who's that dark brown man? Is he covered in mud? What is that? I only see those when I go to the bad places in town. What is that? He's not. He's
supposed to be cutting my grass, not on the field. Oh, hey, you know,
south real fast. Speaking of which, I can't be on too much longer. I'm gonna have to run.
Okay.
But I want to address a couple things. As Greg pointed out, the show itself, basically a sports show, is coming up on its third anniversary-ish thing.
Indeed.
Yeah,
yes.
We're going to be going into the fourth year of basically sporting.
It's crazy. It's unbelievable. The show is
Did anybody of the four of us think we would still be doing this 3 years later?
Well, no, not really.
I
thought it would be something fun, and we'd eventually kind of be like, oh, well, I guess we ran our course.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. But we've managed to find stuff to talk about every single week and not hate it, so.
That's really all you're going for, is not to hate it.
And pretty much.
I talked to Greg a little bit too. It's over messages on the board and stuff about how I miss doing the show, and I've been through a weird couple years of my life, and part of that unfortunately involved me not doing the show anymore. And I felt the way I left was weird, and I felt like
congratulations on your new shift.
Oh, yeah. Thank God. So yeah, for those who aren't aware, I've been working overnights. When we started doing the show, I was working overnights. I would go into work as soon as we were done recording the show most nights. I was on second shifts for a year. I've been fucked around with my schedule a lot for a long time. And finally, starting this week, I'm on first shift Monday through Friday, not working holidays, not working weekends. It's beautiful. And it's very exciting. And I told Greg, it's like the possibility, I'm getting the itch to do a podcast, and I don't have any romantic nonsense it's not nonsense, but I don't have anything, a side thing that would demand my time because of my sleep schedule all being screwed up. And it's not that I'm saying, hey, I want to do basically sports again. But it is nice to basically what I told him was I miss doing podcasts with you guys. It was such a great time. I enjoyed myself, and I really enjoyed myself tonight. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, it's like I told you. I don't think, and I think I can speak for all of us when I say this, at no point did we ever think you weren't part of the show anymore.
Well, you know what I mean, though.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make it weird or anything like that, but it was just like, I had to step away during the time I did, and it was weird because there's things I would think about that I wanted to say, and I would listen in, and you guys would do your thing and had a lot of fun. I could tell you guys were having a lot of fun, and Mike got to say stuff. It was a big change.
When we actually let him talk, we found out he's actually pretty good at this.
Yeah, it's usually, for a long time, Mike was the guy in the background you hear trying to talk. But anyway, so I don't know. I know that you were talking about possibly doing a different kind of show, another base spin-off thing. I'm trying to kick around ideas for shows of any kind to get back into it. And it's just nice to for me personally, this was my get back on the horse type moment this evening, was to see, could I be a part of an engaging sports conversation and only do 1/4 of the work. It felt great. But yeah, so thank you guys, and congratulations. I know you guys have honestly done a tremendous job keeping the show alive, making it your own too. That's what I felt stands out most about basically a sports show in my absentia. Not only has disgusting fecal metaphors plummeted. But
have you heard some of the things we've talked about? I think it's worse than feces.
I only said about 70-80%. There's still a solid 20% of just disgusting.
Well, we moved on from fecal matter to some pretty disturbing stuff over the years.
We've discussed vajankles.
Dark.
Last week, masturbating animals.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, these things are the charm of basically a sports show. That's
what I said.
Fell.
Yeah, you come for the sports and stay for the basically.
Yes. The flavor of the show has not changed too much, but overall, I felt like as I left the show, I felt like, well, this is, Greg will put his own touch on this, and it's gone its own way very wonderfully. And I feel like that has mattered to the people, the strange people who still listen to this show for some reason. You weird, gross people who have nothing else to do but enjoy 3 dudes talking about sports. But either way, I will do my damnedest to participate with you guys a lot more, as long as there's not a bunch of I feel like my seat is covered in papers. It has become the storage area for the show. Zach is throwing a bunch of ducks shit on there. And
to pay the rent for our lavish studios, we're actually renting it out.
Right. Either that or the chimp sits there most nights. But yeah,
I was going to say, Greg let the monkey sit there now, so it's just...
Speaking of fecal matter, it's probably covered in it.
Yeah, and little Paul Stanley sits in it once in a while, but for the most part, we keep it empty, yeah.
But either way, I will, keep in touch with you guys as far as doing something like this again, and maybe popping in on a couple basically sports. Who knows? But I'm sure we'll collaborate again in the future. I'll probably do some more wrestling shows with Mike and all that stuff. So. Woo! But either way, just to kind of close things out here, again, thank you for having me back and for sitting down with me for a few hours talking sports. Can't wait to do it again. Talk to you guys soon.
All right, man. See you.
Later.
See you, Andy.